Acting Deputy Speaker? Yeah, that'll do. No acting. There we go. Beautiful. Thank you to the Minister for Youth Justice, Laura Gerber, who's my adjacent MP, for introducing yet another piece of legislation that will mop up the sorry and sordid mess that is Labor's youth crime crisis legacy. I have to believe that elections are about contrast, they're about choices, and they're about giving the community back agency. And what I took from the last election is that my community of Burleigh had had enough. They'd had enough of young people skulking at the end of cul-de-sacs, prying open the doors of their vehicles. They had had enough of young people jumping fences to burglarise their homes, and they had enough of being terrorised through their commercial centres. They had had enough and they wanted change. But what change was offered to them? Well, there was a change offered, and that was the Making Queensland Safer laws. And it offered the community back its voice, its agency, a fresh start for Queensland. And I'm so proud to be part of a government that takes the safety of my community, of every community across Queensland, so seriously, because I can tell you those opposite simply do not. And I know that they do not because of their track record in my beautiful part of Burleigh. It's a track record that saw the former government cut 6 positions from the Palm Beach Police District. Six positions. Could not believe that. Could not believe that. In the middle of a youth crime crisis, they would cut positions. 6 positions since 2015. And to add insult to injury, when they had an opportunity to amend laws to address the resource crisis they created, they fumbled the ball.
Point of order,
and one of those
Deputy
laws...
Speaker.
Member for Burleigh, would you resume your seat?
Previous rulings in this debate has been very specific to talk about the bill itself. I believe that the member is straying away, and I ask that he be brought back to the long title of the bill.
I'll take some advice. Member for Burleigh, would you please explain how what you're saying is relevant to the bill? And I just ask you to be mindful of being relevant to the particular bill that we're dealing with at the moment.
Absolutely. And in fact, I'm sure the Hansard will reflect that I was mid-sentence when the member rose with her point of order. When I remarked that the former government had fumbled the ball when amending legislation, and I refer, of course, to the substance of what we're considering today, and that is their approach to youth monitoring through devices, which is what we're discussing, of course, in this very moment. Now, I'll take that interjection. I appreciate the encouragement because I'm perhaps the only talent this side of the chamber.
Order. Member for Currumbin.
The only talent this side of the chamber. But, right, to return. The former government had stripped resources, but to compound the woes in our community, what they did was fumble important legislation. And one piece of legislation they fumbled were their ham-fisted reforms to the monitoring devices legislation because, Mr. Acting Deputy Speaker, what they did was they failed to ensure that this trial, their trial, could run sufficiently long that they would have the data that they would need to make an informed decision as to whether the trial failed abysmally or it provided a method that could be used by police under pressure because of cut resources to do their job effectively. And that is why I have to support this bill, because the former government had put our police under so much pressure that the only reasonable thing we can do is to provide them with the tools and resources necessary to amplify what little resources the former government left behind. And so the purpose of this act is to give the police an extension of that trial so that their resources can be stretched, so that their resources can be used as efficiently as possible to give us the time we need in government to correct other deficiencies in the approach to youth justice. And we have to do that because we have heard today, and it's been remarked on by several members in this chamber, that addressing this extension in this bill is not the be-all and end-all of what will make Queensland safer. What will make Queensland safer are more police who are better resourced and backed with the laws that they need to ensure that justice is done and that justice is seen to be done. Now, justice was not seen to be done in the first incarnation of Labor's version of these laws, and it was certainly not actually done on the Gold Coast. And I just want to reflect on this. In the first year of the trial's operation, in the first year, 365 days of misery in Queensland. In that first year, only 5 youth offenders had an electronic monitoring order imposed as a condition of their bail. Shame. Five across the state of Queensland. But in my constituency and in the city that I love and care for, on the Gold Coast, can you imagine what that figure was? What was our share of the 5? Zero. Yeah. Zero. Not a single youth offender as a condition of bail had an ankle monitor attached to their person. So not only was justice not seen to be done, in reality it was not done. And that's what makes Labor's approach an injustice, an absolute injustice. You know, when I was door knocking my community, I had the fortune of speaking to good people who had the misfortune of being victims of Labor's crime crisis. I spoke to a lovely lady on 19th Avenue in Palm Beach, and she explained to me that one day she had left home. She normally works from home, but it was school holidays. She left home and she left her 2 teenage children at home to look after themselves. And that was a reasonable thing to do. That's the Australian dream, to live in a safe environment where once your kids are responsible and come for age, you can duck out knowing that they will be safe. Unfortunately, their home was beset by some youth offenders who had jumped the front fence, right? They had terrorised her 2 children, in her home. Those offenders made off with goods, but the trauma wasn't what was stolen. The trauma...
The member for McConnell...
Point of order, Chair.
Member for McConnell, before I take your point of order, if you wish to interact with the chair of this House, you will do so through a point of order. I will not accept whisperings and commentary from either side. Before I take your point of order, I was going to take some advice from the clerk. Would you please take your seat, Member for McConnell? Member for McConnell, what's your point of order?
My point of order is relevance. The Shadow Minister was pulled up by previous rulings on speaking anything outside the long title of the bill, and others in this House are now doing exactly what she was brought up for, with point of orders coming from that side, and sat down at one stage. So I ask relevance and that the member be brought back to the long title of the bill.
Look, I think the member is contextualising his contribution to his electorate. I hope that is what he's doing, and I'm quite sure that he will remain relevant. And I would also ask, could you just assure the House member for Burleigh that the matter you're just ventilating isn't before the courts as a criminal matter?
Thank you very much. I don't believe the culprits were ever caught, which actually brings me to my point. The woman with whom I had this conversation made it very clear to me that something needed to be done. And she spoke very passionately about the need for repeat offenders to be properly monitored, because it was her concern that those out on bail, not being fitted with devices, could get about the community with no consequences whatsoever for their actions. And it's because of conversations like that, which I had on 19th Avenue, that I was so motivated to support a government that wanted to change the laws and make sure that we had safety where we lived, but that we made good use of technology to ensure that our police could get on with their job. That's why I support this bill. I support it because it allows our police to amplify their resources. It will give us the data that we need to decide whether we need to back this in or make improvements. And it will give comfort to my community in Burleigh that we take their concerns and suggestions properly, because they have not been heard by the former government. My support for this Act is a demonstration that I hear their concerns, that I will act on their concerns and support good legislation that backs in our police and restores safety where they live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Acting Speaker.
I call the member for Lockyer.